Riding the storm out, waiting for the thaw on a full moon night in the Rocky Mountain winter. You ever hear that song, REO Speedwagon? Yeah, riding the storm out. And boy, I feel like I'm riding the storm out today. Ooh, what a day. Thanks for the prayers for my wife. She's not doing very good. Uh, this morning, she had a fall and hit her head, knocked her out, and we got her back up on her feet, and I decided to just call 911 and have the ambulance take her to the hospital. So I've been up at the hospital most of the morning with her. She's doing okay right now, but it looks like they're going to keep her, and I don't know where it's going to go from here. But thanks for the prayers and the concerns. And my heart goes out to those of you who also are dealing with cancer, who have loved ones with cancer. My prayers go out to you too. As far as riding the storm out, though, goes with motorcycling, which is kind of my world, my go-to, my freedom, my stress relief. You know, I've been through quite a few storms. I mean, like weather storms. Uh, you know that REO Speedwagon song that talks about the Rocky Mountain winter. I never been to the Rockies in the winter, but here in Ohio, I had ridden my motorcycle to work one day, and it was probably in the 50s. I think it was a March, early spring, and you know, back then I didn't have a cell phone or anything, so we didn't have any way to look at radar or tell what weather was going to be. And sure enough, the wind picked up, the temperature dropped, and it started snowing. Well, luckily it was towards the end of the day, so I jumped on the bike and started heading home, but it broke into a real blizzard. Now, at first, the roads were just kind of wet, the snow wasn't sticking, but about halfway into my journey home, it started piling up on the roads. So the best I could do was like stay in that tire track that the car in front of me was leaving. I did make it home okay, but when I got in the driveway, I mean, I must have had like a half inch of snow caked all over the front of me. Probably the longest ride I've ever had in a storm. It was a Labor Day weekend, and I was preparing to go down to Chillicothe for the Easy Riders Rodeo. I had to work that day, and it was a Friday, and I got off work just a little bit early. I already had most of my stuff ready, but I finished bungeeing the rest of my stuff on the back of the motorcycle, my tent, my sleeping bag, and everything, and it started raining. So, you know, I went and grabbed some trash bags. Yeah, the trash bags are a great go-to. Always carry some in your saddlebag because they make a great emergency rain cover. So I just covered my gear on the back that I had strapped on with trash bags and strapped, you know, over the trash bags to hold them on there tight. And I kept my gear dry, and took off down to Chillicothe. Well, it's about a maybe 3.5 hour. It could be up to a 4 hour drive to get to Chillicothe because you got to go through Columbus, Ohio, which is a major city, so you can get into traffic situations, stuff which slows you down considerably. Uh, but the whole way, the whole 3.5, 4 hour ride was literally pouring down rain. Now, I don't know if you've ever ridden in a storm like that where it's pouring down rain, but you know, and really, I don't know what it would be like with a full face helmet and a shield. I would assume that could steam up on you. I don't know. Some of you guys wear helmets full face with the shield, so you'd be able to tell us what happens there. But I wore glasses or goggles, and then I had my windscreen or my windshield on the bike too. And of course, you're not going to be able to see much through the windshield, so I'm kind of peering over the top of the windshield, you know, and over the top of my glasses too, because I can't see through my glasses. They keep fogging up on me. So I'm squinting, you know, and I'm going through this pouring down rain, and I thought, got to make it to Chillicothe. I was going to meet up with my buddies down there, and they had some hookups with the Outlaw MC, And so we were going to camp with the Outlaw MC for the weekend down there in their own. Uh, the Outlaws actually had a fenced-in area that was specific to them, where they, you had to be part of that club or support or whatever to get in there. Otherwise, no deal, no visitors. But I was lucky enough to be able to join them. So I was kind of excited about it, and I wanted to get there. But it was funny because every underpass that I went under, every bridge that goes over the highway, there's all these motorcycles lined up under there and people with rain gear on, just like, wiping their faces and wiping their glasses off and everything. And I just kept right on going. I was going to make it down there, hell or high water, as they say. And it was a little dangerous. I mean, I kind of, what I did is I kind of stayed right behind another vehicle where I could see the tail lights and just kind of stayed right in that line there and just prayed that nobody would not see me, and merge into me or whack into my back or end or something like that. Made it safely, but it was a mud hole when we got there. When we arrived, it was just a mud hole. So that was quite an adventure in riding in the storm. Now, there was one other storm that I didn't actually get caught in, but I was actually in Wyoming, and I was heading south into Utah. And it was just this big, long stretch of road. I wasn't on the highway or anything. I was actually like in the desert, just going. There's some mesas and plateaus there. It's beautiful country. But man, it was hot. It was probably close to 100 degrees, and I just hammering along, about 80 mile an hour, all by myself. There wasn't nobody else around. And off to the west, there was one of these thunderheads, that looks like a big black mushroom thing, and it's just moving across the desert there, and it's coming right towards the road that I was heading on. And I thought, oh boy, I don't want to get caught in that. I mean, you could see the lightning bolts coming down in the middle of it. And where I was, the sun was shining. But here was this great big thunderhead, and it was coming, moving right across. So I just kind of cranked up the throttle at like 90 mile an hour. And I thought, I got to beat this thing. I got to get past it before it comes across the highway. So I just hammered through, and I could see it coming closer and closer and closer, and I thought, man, it's going to get me. It's going to get me. And I started feeling like a few drops on me. Now, when you ride in the rain, drops feel like BBs hitting you. I mean, they sting, especially at 90 mile an hour. And but I just kept on going. And I'm looking in my mirrors, and behind me, it is like literally pouring down like sheets, and I was on dry pavement, just barely staying ahead of it as it came across right behind me. Lightning behind me, thunder, and just pouring down rain, and I managed to stay dry. I didn't even have to put my rain gear on. I shot right past that one, but it was still quite an experience nonetheless. Now, aside from that, I think I got one more foul weather story. You may or may not have heard this one before, but some friends of mine and myself got on our motorcycles. I think there was 4 or 5 of us, and we headed down south to do a camping trip for a couple days. And on the morning that we were going to come home, it started raining. So we put all the gear away wet. I mean, it was raining while we were taking down camp. And, I mean, we were young back then. We didn't have rain gear. We were just flying by the seat of our pants, really. Like, hey, let's go camping this weekend. Grab your sleeping bag and tent, and we're going to go down. And that's what we did. So we're riding back home, and we started getting wet. And the temperature was probably in the 40s, I'm going to say. So chill factor went... Plus the fact when you're wet, you even get colder. So we were just freezing. I mean, literally freezing. We had a couple hours ride to get home. So we pulled into this convenience store and we bought a box of trash bags. and a roll of tape, and we had duct tape trash bags around our legs and across our chest. Temporary rain gear, cut a hole in the trash bag, put it over you like a sweatshirt or whatever. And that worked to some degree, but we were already wet, and I mean, it was the most miserable ride I think I have ever been on. Those were the most miserable 2 hours of my life. Got home, and I was so cold. Now, have you ever, when you're on the bike, your knees are like in that locked position. You really, I guess you could stand up while you're riding and stretching, but it's pouring down rain. You're not going to do a lot of acrobats on the bike. I got home and I swung my legs off the bike and I couldn't even stand up straight. My legs wouldn't even bend. My knees were like locked, cold from the cold. I mean, it was miserable. But we made it. We all made it home. We all made it home safely. And after a nice warm shower, I think the joints started to work a little better again. The memories, And there was a lot of other times where I was in the rain. I've ridden in all kinds of weather. The other one was that I just remembered now too was when I was out in the Black Hills in South Dakota, and I was up in the mountains there, the Black Hills, and a freak storm came in, and so I remember I stopped at some kind of kiosk or shelter where I don't know, it was like a gift shop or something where you could stand under the overhang and just to stay dry, and it hailed, and it hailed so hard. I mean, the hailstones were like marble sized, pea sized, and it literally covered the ground. The road and everything was white with hail. Well, you couldn't ride in the like. There was a couple guys that actually tried to go out and ride, and you could. It was like riding on marbles. It was like riding on ice. So the neat thing about that was though, it was one of those 90-degree days. It rained, the hail came, but the road surface was so hot that the hail melted within like 15 minutes. And then it was just like steam coming off of the road, from where the hail had melted. So I just stood around for about 15 minutes, watched the hail melt off the road, and once it was gone, took back off riding for the rest of the day. That was another adventure worth remembering. I'm sure there's other ones I've forgotten about in all my years of riding. I've been through the storm. I've been riding the storm out. Well, I've got to run back up to the hospital. I mean, a couple of you guys have told me, you said, "Hey, Itchy, I can see the tiredness in your eyes." Yeah, I've been staying ahead of it. I've been keeping my chin up. I've been staying positive. Been working my butt off. I've been doing everything, chief cook and bottle washer, laundry duties, and everything else around here. Not to mention, personal care for V, because she's in a position right now where it's very hard for her to even do simple tasks. So I'm relieved now that she's in professional care again, and I don't know how long she's going to be there. But your prayers and your concerns are very well appreciated. God bless every one of you. Till next time, cats, ride hard and die free.